In our homes, kids tell lies to sometimes avoid punishment or to sometimes get what they want from their parents. Can that be said in a case of an adult person lying? What happens if an adult person lies? We raise eyebrows. Let me know in the comment section if an adult person is caught lying. What do you do? Do you raise eyebrows or do you tell him in the face? Ladies and gentlemen, can we say that in the case of U.S. General Michael Langley, in his recent interview in Kenya, when he attended the AFRICOM meeting with the Chief of Defense of African military countries, that is what we'll be going to look at. He had the opportunity over there during an interview to clarify his recent statement he made against Captain Ibrahim Traore or the people of Burkina Faso in regards to the use of their resources. If you have not seen this video or heard this statement, let's watch it.
He's on the side that in order to the benefit of the strongman leader and not to the populace of the country. Does that sort of corruption and bribery go on with regard to the Belt and Road?
Absolutely, Chairman. I see this, and I don't mind calling them out, but Captain Tory and Burkina Faso, as they know that both, whether it's their gold reserves, that is all those proceeds are just in exchange to protect the junta regime. There's a number of examples across.
Now, to better understand the purpose of this conference by the Chief of Defense from various African countries and the participation of U.S. General Michael Langley, the leader of Afro Command, let's listen to him in the interview.
Let's begin by understanding why you're here. There is the Chiefs of Defense Forces conference. Tell us about that and what role AFRICOM is playing.
Well, for U.S. AFRICOM, we yearly put on the Chief of Defense Conference. When I first took command back in 2022, we had a conference in Rome. And I said, you know what? That's fine and good. Everyone wants to go to Rome, but I saw that this conference is for the African Chiefs of Defense. It should be on the continent. And we went to have our own last year in Botswana. And it really opened things up to address issues, military issues, security issues, shared objectives of how to achieve security and stability across the continent. So that was a purpose. And now we're here in Kenya. And as I had discussions with the Chad, General Kariri, he says, yes, I would love to host this conference. So it's an ownership by the Chiefs of Defense across Africa. And here we are.
Tell us about the relationship between, AFRICOM and, of course, the various militaries around Africa. And we'll come to Kenya in a moment. Well, let's talk about...
Now, having come to understand the purpose of the conference and the presence of the general over there, along the interview, the issue of autonomy and sovereignty pops out. And the general was asked about sovereignty of African countries and sovereignty of any other countries in the world. If you come to understand the autonomy and sovereignty of every country in the world, then what then do you make of your recent statement against Captain Ibrahim Traore, accusing him of misusing the state resources to the benefit of the junta regime? Now, the general response was pretty straightforward, that his response was solely based on military point of view. In other words, he's trying to say, if you are whatever field or whatever your profession is, your argument is likely to be coming from that angle. And any decision you are going to be taking is going to be taken, or any expression of opinion is going to be from your angle of your profession. So he being a military officer, his argument before his senators or before his bosses was solely based from the military point of view. And he was trying to reconcile both statements. However, I think if we listen to his previous statement or accusation in the previous video and his recent interview, his response, one thing I believe is feasible is contradiction. Reconciling both statements or both instances is not feasible, in my opinion. Let me know in the comment section what do you think. Having said that, let's proceed to watch the interview, his response to the question. Now, if you are new to this channel, I humbly request that you subscribe, like, and share this video. And anytime I post a new video, you'll be able to watch it. This is Timeless Time channel. My name is Dominic Waja, and you are welcome.
AFRICOM can help.
Okay. All right, so it's about countries perhaps taking up their own autonomy. General, let's talk about countries taking on their own autonomy. You are on African soil, not for the first time, but this would be a good moment to ask about one of the countries that has taken its own autonomy, and that's Burkina Faso. Yeah. Your remarks recently at the Senate seem to suggest that he's diverting, General Traoré, is diverting its 4 billion gold reserves to sustain his military rule rather than for public welfare. These remarks sparked widespread condemnation across the continent. What did you mean by that statement?
Let me speak to Burkina Faso's sovereignty. They maintain their sovereignty. They make their decisions how they use their resources. They make their decisions who their resources go to for military support. That's their sovereign right. But my cautionary tale was just from a military perspective. That was a Senate Armed Services Committee asking me a direct question. Burkina Faso, a lot of great things going on to progress them forward, okay? But then when you look at the military part of it, knowing that that's the epicenter of global terrorism, it was my time to illuminate that this is probably their weakest point, and there needs to be sufficient resources going towards for the whole fight of terrorism in that country, period. They make their decisions, though. That's their sovereignty, their sovereign right to make their decisions, what is appropriate, what's not. But I wanted to illuminate that is going in the wrong direction now. ISIS is getting stronger. JNIM is getting stronger. Al-Qaeda in the lands of the Maghreb is getting stronger in that country.
And do you think it's getting stronger after General Traoré took over?
It has. Just look at the numbers of attacks. It really has, since 2022. I've been tracking this since I took command. So, no ill will towards him, but the decisions is their own. They're looking for other ways to be able to, they're still on warfighting footing, but it's just going to take more resources.
So you stand by that statement? Because there's been pressure on you to walk those statements back.
That's my statement. That's my assessment. That is getting worse. More needs to be done for not just local, but whole of country, because of these violent extremist organizations are seeking revenue, they're seeking resources, they're seeking recruiting from the Burkinabe people, and they're seeking refuge within their country. That threatens their sovereignty.
And that threatens America's interest?
Say again?
Does that then threaten America's interests?
Yes, thank you for asking that. Because especially ISIS, and of course in in East Africa is inextricably linked all the way to ISIS West Africa, ISIS Sahel. And there's going to be probably a move afoot for them to move and seek refuge within the line. So we have shared objectives, and we offer to work together with the Burkinabe government and border countries. Mali, Niger, coastal West Africa countries, collective, because here's what these organizations do. Here's what these terrorist organizations do. They seek refuge in the seams or the borders of these countries and lets them thrive and grow and lets them recruit, gain resources to carry on their illicit and nefarious activities against the populations of those people.
And what would America, perhaps AFRICOM, be prepared to do? Would you be considering an ouster like we saw with Muammar Gaddafi in Libya? Because there's still many Africans who are yet to recover from that. If this is a bigger threat, as you say, in Burkina Faso, what is AFRICOM prepared to do about it?
We do indications and warnings. There's a number of activities that we do, and we'll just go ahead and mention building institutional capacity. There's not going to be U.S. boots on the ground. Very, very small for exchange of ideas and training, exercises. Over time, that builds institutional capacity and capability in these armies. There, AFRICOM, we are working towards a burden sharing and a burden shift for their independent operations. That's our goal. We have the shared objectives because these same terrorist groups can threaten our homeland. So we're in concert. I was just in African Lion over in Morocco. A number of countries working together to be able to address.
Is Burkina Faso invited here today for this conference?
Yes. Yes. They were invited to African Lion.